Now, let's begin. Matthew McMillan checked his watch for the third time in as many minutes. The communications tent in Camp Leatherback hummed with the usual chaos. Radio chatter, the clicking of keyboards, men shouting coordinates across the cramped space. 20 years as a Marine Force Recon operator had taught him patience, but the encrypted video file downloading on his laptop was testing every ounce of it. His team had just returned from a 72-hour op in the Helmand province. 3 Taliban commanders eliminated, 0 American casualties. It should have felt like a victory. Instead, Matthew's gut churned with an unease he couldn't name. His son Tyler's last email had been short, too short. "Everything's fine, Dad. Don't worry about me. Focus on staying safe." Tyler was 17, a straight-A student with a football scholarship waiting at Michigan State. He never told his father not to worry. That alone had set off alarm bells. The video finished loading. Matthew clicked play, then felt his blood turn to ice. The footage was shaky, filmed on a phone, but crystal clear. His backyard. The barbecue he'd told Sylvia to host for her family while he was deployed. Tyler was there, wearing his leather jacket, talking to someone off camera. Then Ramon Morris, Sylvia's oldest brother, stepped into frame. "You think you're better than us, college boy?" Ramon's voice dripped with contempt. Tyler raised his hands, backing up. "I never said." Ramon's fist caught Tyler in the jaw. Matthew watched his son drop, try to get up, only to have Dale Morris, Sylvia's second brother, kick him in the ribs. Then the others joined in. Danny, Clifton, Leon, Gary, all 6 of them, taking turns. Matthew's hand shook. Tyler was curled on the ground, trying to protect his head. The sound of his arm breaking was audible even through the phone's tinny speaker. Then his ribs. Tyler stopped moving. But what made Matthew's vision go red was the voice behind the camera. "That's enough." Sylvia's voice. His wife. "Let me get a good shot of his face." The camera zoomed in on Tyler's bloodied, swollen face. His jaw was clearly broken, hanging at an unnatural angle. His eyes were barely open, filled with pain and confusion. "There," Sylvia said. "Perfect." The video cut off. Matthew stared at the screen, his breathing shallow. Then he noticed the posting information. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. She'd uploaded it everywhere with the same caption, teaching him respect. Comments flooded beneath. Most were horrified, calling for police involvement. But some, too many, praised it. "That's how you raise a man. Modern kids need this. Respect your elders." Matthew's throat tightened. The video had been up for 6 hours. Tyler was in the hospital. His own wife had not only allowed this, but celebrated it, filmed it, shared it with the world like some trophy. He became aware of someone standing behind him, then another person, then more. His entire unit had gathered around his laptop, watching over his shoulder. 12 men, all Force Recon, all seeing what he'd just seen. James Davenport, his second in command, spoke first. "That's Tyler. That's my son." Matthew's voice came out flat, emotionless. The kind of tone he used right before a mission, right before violence became necessary. Colin Romero leaned closer to the screen. 6-on-1. The kid's what, 17? And they're all grown men. "How bad is he?" Nicholas Merrill asked. Matthew pulled up his email, found the message from Sylvia buried under the usual deployment notifications. He'd ignored it earlier, thinking it was her typical complaints about his absence. Now he read it aloud. "Tyler's in the hospital. Broken jaw, broken arm, for broken ribs, concussion. Might need surgery. The boys got a little rough, teaching him manners. He disrespected Ramon at dinner. You know how family is." The tent went quiet. The kind of quiet that preceded storms. Sean Fisher broke the silence. "She let this happen. She filmed it," Kelvin Compton corrected. "She's proud of it." Jeffrey Leon was already pulling up the social media posts on his own phone. This has been shared thousands of times. People are losing their minds. Someone tagged the police department. The news. "Holy shit, McMillan, this is everywhere." Matthew closed his laptop carefully, precisely. 20 years of combat had taught him to compartmentalize, to think clearly even when fury threatened to overwhelm him. He stood, walked out of the tent, and headed straight for the command post. Captain Terrence Merritt looked up from his desk when Matthew entered. One look at his face, and the captain's expression hardened. What happened? Matthew showed him the video. Didn't say a word. Just let it play. Merritt watched in silence, his jaw tightening with each second. When it ended, he sat back in his chair. Your son? Yes, sir. Your wife filmed this? Yes, sir. Merritt pulled up his computer, began typing rapidly. I'm granting you 72-hour emergency leave. Take 4 men. Get home. Handle your family emergency. He paused, meeting Matthew's eyes. I didn't see you leave with 8 men. Understood? Yes, sir. And McMillan? Merritt's voice dropped. Those men laid hands on a Marine son on American soil. As far as I'm concerned, that's a matter of national security. You do what needs to be done. The C-130 carrying Matthew and 8 of his brothers touched down at Dover Air Force Base 26 hours later. They moved through customs with military efficiency, their duffel bags flagged for expedited processing. No one questioned the force recon operators. No one wanted to. James Davenport had spent the flight coordinating. By the time they landed, he had rental vehicles waiting, accommodations secured, a motel 40 miles from Matthew's hometown of Millbrook, Pennsylvania, and preliminary reconnaissance completed using publicly available information. The Morris brothers, James briefed as they loaded into 2 black SUVs. Ramon Morris, age 38. Owns a used car lot. 3 DUIs, 1 assault charge that was dropped. Lives alone in a trailer park outside town. Colin Romero picked up the briefing. Dale Morris, 36. Construction foreman. History of bar fights. Married, 2 kids. Wife Becky filed for divorce twice, but withdrew both times. Danny Morris, 33. Nicholas Merrill continued. Unemployed. Living with Leon Morris, 31, who works at a meat packing plant. Both have drug possession charges. Sean Fisher consulted his tablet. Clifton Morris, 29. Mechanic at a local garage. Custody battle with ex-wife over visitation rights. Known associate of local motorcycle gang. And Gary Morris, Kelvin Compton finished. 27. The youngest. Still lives with mommy. Works part-time at Ramon's car lot. No record, but known to follow his brother's lead in everything. Matthew listened from the passenger seat, staring out at the Pennsylvania countryside rolling past. And Sylvia? Still at the family home, James said quietly. Tyler was released from the hospital this morning, staying with a friend, Joseph Miner's daughter, Becky Roberson. She's his girlfriend. Miner's a defense attorney in town. He's already reached out to the state police about pressing charges. Will they? The video's evidence. Assault. Child endangerment. Conspiracy. But it's a small town, McMillan. The Morris family has connections. The sheriff is Dale's cousin. Matthew nodded slowly. He'd expected that. Small-town corruption was predictable. That's why he'd brought his own justice. Where's Tyler now? Miner's house. Becky's taking care of him. The kids. James hesitated. The medical reports are rough. The jaw required surgery. They had to wire it shut. The arm needs pins. The ribs punctured his lung. He was in ICU for 2 days. Matthew's hands clenched into fists. I want to see him first. Already arranged. Miner knows we're coming. Joseph Miner's house was a modest 2-story colonial on the edge of Millbrook. The attorney was waiting on the porch when the SUVs pulled up, a man in his 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes that didn't miss much. He came down the steps as Matthew climbed out. Matthew McMillan? Yes, sir. Joe Miner. I'm sorry about what happened to your boy. They shook hands. Miner glanced at the 8 other men emerging from the vehicles, all carrying themselves with unmistakable military bearing. You brought friends. My unit. They wanted to pay respects. Miner's eyes narrowed slightly, but he nodded. Tyler's upstairs. Becky's with him. I should warn you. He's been through hell. Physically and emotionally. He paused. The video's been viewed over 2 million times. Kids at school have seen it. Everyone's seen it. Matthew felt his chest tighten. How's he handling it? He won't talk about it. Won't talk about his mother. Won't talk about what happened. Just stares at the wall. Miner led them inside, up the stairs. The prosecutor says they have enough to charge all 6 brothers. But Sylvia, she's claiming it was discipline. That Tyler provoked them. Her family's rallying around her. Of course they are. Minor stopped outside a bedroom door. I know what you're thinking. I'm a lawyer. I believe in the system. But I'm also a father. He met Matthew's eyes. The system moves slow. And sometimes it doesn't move at all. Especially in a town where the Morris family has roots going back generations. I understand. Do you? Minor's voice dropped. Because I need to know, are you going to do something stupid? Something that lands you in jail and leaves Tyler without a father? Matthew considered the question. Tyler already lost his father. I've been deployed for 15 of the last 17 years. I missed his childhood because I was busy protecting strangers' children. His voice hardened. I'm not missing his justice. Minor held his gaze for a long moment, then stepped aside. I didn't hear that. Go see your son. Tyler lay in bed, his face a canvas of purple and yellow bruises. His jaw was wired shut, his left arm in a cast covered with signatures from friends. He stared at the ceiling, unmoving, until Matthew stepped into the doorway. Their eyes met. Tyler's filled with tears. Matthew crossed the room in 3 strides and carefully, so carefully, pulled his son into his arms. Tyler shook, silent sobs racking his broken body. They stayed like that for a long time. When Tyler finally pulled back, he grabbed a notepad from the bedside table. His handwriting was shaky. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. Matthew's throat burned. You had nothing to be sorry for. 6 grown men jumped you. That's not about strength. That's about cowardice. Mom said I deserved it. Said I embarrassed the family. Your mother was wrong. Matthew kept his voice steady, controlled. What did you do that supposedly deserved this? Tyler wrote slowly. Ramon told a story about stealing from his boss. I said that was wrong. He got mad. Said I was calling him a thief. The others backed him up. Started pushing me around. I tried to leave. They wouldn't let me. Matthew read the words twice. His son had been brutalized for having a conscience. For being a better person than the men who raised his mother. Mom laughed when it started. Then she got her phone. I know. I saw the video. Tyler's hand trembled as he wrote the next words. Everyone saw it. The whole school. My teammates. Coach said Michigan State is reconsidering my scholarship. They don't want the publicity. Matthew felt something break inside his chest. These men hadn't just hurt his son's body. They destroyed his future, his dreams, his sense of safety in the world. Becky Roberson appeared in the doorway, a slight girl with dark hair and fierce eyes. He needs to rest. The doctor said the stress isn't good for his healing. Matthew nodded, standing. He squeezed Tyler's hand. I'm going to fix this. Tyler grabbed his arm, wrote urgently. Don't do anything that gets you in trouble. I need you here. I'll be here, Matthew promised. But some things can't be fixed with words. The motel room smelled like cheap coffee and cigarettes. Matthew's team had transformed it into an operations center. Maps of Millbrook covered one wall. Surveillance photos of the 6 Morris brothers covered another. Laptops hummed on the desk, running facial recognition software, pulling up financial records, criminal histories, social media accounts. James Davenport stood at the map, red marker in hand. Ramon Morris, trailer park on Old Mill Road. Isolated. Nearest neighbor is a quarter-mile away. He closes his car lot at 6, usually home by 7. Drinks. Alone. Colin Romero tapped a laptop screen. Dale Morris. House in the suburbs, but his wife just kicked him out again. He's staying at the Red Star Motel downtown. Room 214. He's there right now, probably drunk. Danny and Leon Morris share an apartment above a liquor store on Spruce Street, Nicholas Merrill said. They're both there now. Neighbors complain about noise, fighting. Police have been called twice this month. Sean Fisher pulled up photos on his phone. Clifton Morris lives in a basement apartment behind the garage where he works. Owner's an old guy who's deaf and goes to bed at 8. Clifton's usually working late, alone in the shop. Gary Morris, Kelvin Compton finished. Still living with his mother. That's Sylvia's mother, Margaret Morris. House on Elm Street. But Gary spends most nights at a bar called Sullivan's. Regular as clockwork. Matthew studied the information, his mind working through scenarios. 6 targets. 6 locations. We're 8 operators. 7. James corrected. You're going to visit your wife. Negative. I'm operational. With respect, sir, you're too close to this. We need you thinking clearly. James's tone left no room for argument. We handle the brothers. You handle the woman who let this happen. Matthew wanted to argue, but James was right. Sylvia's betrayal cut deeper than anything her brothers had done. That conversation needed to be face-to-face, alone. Fine. How do we do this? Clean, James said. Quiet. No permanent damage, no murder charges. But they need to understand what happens when you hurt a Marine's family. He smiled, and it wasn't friendly. We teach them respect. Jeffrey Leon spoke up. I've been researching the Morris family. These men have been terrorizing this town for years. Bar fights, domestic violence, petty crime. They get away with it because they're connected, because people are afraid of them. Carlton Daniel nodded. Ramon's car lot has a dozen complaints about fraud with the Better Business Bureau. He sells lemons, forges paperwork, threatens customers who try to get refunds. Dale's construction company has OSHA violations, John Peterson added. 3 workers injured last year. He paid them cash to keep quiet. Danny and Leon have been dealing drugs out of their apartment, Nicholas Merrill said. Small time, but enough to add conspiracy charges if anyone cared to build a case. Which they don't, Matthew said quietly. Because the sheriff is family. Exactly. These men think they're untouchable. James met each man's eyes. We're going to teach them different. We're going to do what the law can't or won't do. We're going to make them afraid. Matthew felt the old familiar calm settle over him. Mission mode. Rules of engagement. Non-lethal, but memorable. They need to fear going to sleep at night. They need to see us in their nightmares. James turned to the map. We go tonight. Simultaneous operations. In and out in 30 minutes. Then we disappear. And if police get involved, we're Marines on leave visiting family. We have alibis. The motel clerk will confirm we were here all night playing cards. James grinned. I already paid him $200. Matthew looked at his team, brothers who'd walked through hell with him, who'd seen the video and volunteered for this without hesitation. You understand what you're risking? Your careers. Your freedom. For my son. Colin Romero spoke for all of them. He's our nephew. And they touched him on American soil. On our watch. His eyes hardened. They're going to learn what happens when you mess with Force Recon family. The room murmured agreement. Matthew nodded once. Then let's go to work. At 2,130 hours, James Davenport and Sean Fisher approached Ramon Morris's trailer. The car lot owner was exactly where surveillance predicted. Passed out drunk in his recliner, empty beer bottles scattered around him, television blaring some reality show. The door wasn't even locked. They entered like ghosts, moving through the trash-filled space with practiced silence. James zip-tied Ramon's wrists and ankles before the man even stirred. When he did wake up, duct tape covered his mouth and a black had covered his head. Ramon thrashed, making muffled sounds of panic. Ramon Morris, James said quietly. You put your hands on Tyler McMillan. Broke his jaw, his arm, his ribs. You remember that? Frantic nodding. Good. We're here to return the favor. James paused. But we're not cowards who gang up 6-on-1. We're going to give you a choice. Sean pulled the hood off. Ramon's eyes were wide, bloodshot, terrified. You see my friend here? James gestured to Sean. He's going to hit you once. Just once. You can choose where. Gut, ribs, or face. What's it going to be? Ramon tried to speak through the tape, shaking his head violently. No. Okay, we'll choose. James nodded to Sean. The punch to Ramon's solar plexus drove every bit of air from his lungs. He doubled over, gagging, his face turning purple. They let him suffer for 30 seconds, long enough to think he might actually suffocate, before cutting the zip ties and removing the tape. Ramon gasped, wheezing, tears streaming down his face. That was for Tyler's ribs, James said. Now here's the part you need to understand. We know where you live. We know where you work. We know your routines. And if you ever go near that kid again, we won't be so gentle. He leaned close. We're trained killers, Ramon. We've ended men in 40 different countries. You think small-town cops scare us? You think your family connections matter to us? Ramon shook his head, still gasping. Good. Now you're going to call your brothers. Tell them to leave Tyler McMillan alone. Tell them what happened here. Make sure they understand. James stood. And you're going to delete that video. Every copy, every post, every share. Then you're going to post an apology. You have 24 hours. They left him there, crying on his filthy floor. Dale Morris never saw them coming. He'd been drinking in his motel room, watching the same video of Tyler's beating for the dozenth time, laughing at parts of it. When the door burst open, he barely had time to register the two figures in black before Nicholas Merrill had him face down on the stained carpet. You filmed this. Kelvin Compton held up a phone showing the video. Thought it was funny? Dale struggled. Who the hell? Kelvin's boot pressed down on Dale's broken hand, the one he'd shattered on Tyler's ribs. The cast had been off for a week. Dale screamed. That's the sound Tyler made, Kelvin said conversationally. When you kicked him, remember? I'll kill you. No, you won't. Nicholas pulled out a phone, began taking pictures. See, we've been doing some research. Your wife? The one you beat? She's been documenting everything. Photos, hospital records, your kids' therapy bills. He showed Dale the screen. All it takes is one anonymous tip to the right prosecutor. Your family connections won't help with federal domestic violence charges. Dale's face went white. So here's the deal, Kelvin said. You leave Tyler McMillan alone. You leave his father alone. You tell your brothers to do the same. And maybe these files don't end up with the FBI. They left him there, shaking and sober. Danny and Leon Morris were in their apartment, counting money from their latest drug deal, when their windows exploded inward. Flashbangs filled the room with light and sound, leaving both men blind and deaf, stumbling into walls. When their vision cleared, Colin Romero and Jeffrey Leon stood in the wreckage, both wearing ski masks. Federal Drug Task Force, Colin said, his voice flat. You're under arrest. It was a lie, of course. But Danny and Leon didn't know that. They dropped to their knees, hands up, babbling excuses. Colin let them sweat for 5 minutes, reading them fake Miranda rights, photographing their stash, making a show of bagging evidence. Then he leaned close. Normally, you'd be going to federal prison, 20 years minimum, but we're going to offer you a deal. He gestured to Jeffrey. My partner here? His nephew was Tyler McMillan, the kid you helped beat. Both men went rigid. So here's your deal. You delete the video. You apologize publicly. You stay away from Tyler and his family. Forever. Do that, and maybe we forget we were here. Colin smiled coldly. Don't do it, and we'll be back with real badges and real warrants. What's it going to be? They agreed so fast they tripped over each other's words. Clifton Morris was under a car in the garage, music blaring from tinny speakers, when Carlton, Daniel, and John Peterson arrived. They didn't announce themselves. They simply lowered the car jack. The vehicle dropped 6 inches. Not enough to crush Clifton, but enough to trap him, pin him under 2,000 pounds of metal and machinery. He screamed, thrashing. Carlton crouched beside the car. Clifton Morris, you broke Tyler McMillan's arm. Remember that. Clifton's eyes bulged. Who help? Someone help. No one's coming. The old man's deaf, remember? John Nell on the other side. We're going to ask you some questions. You're going to answer honestly. If you lie, we lower this car another inch. Understand? Clifton nodded frantically. Did you enjoy beating Tyler? No. It was Ramon's idea. I just went along. You just went along with breaking a teenager's bones? Please. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. Good. Carlton pulled out a phone. You're going to call Tyler McMillan. Right now. You're going to apologize. Then you're going to convince your brothers to do the same. And if we ever hear about you going near that kid again. He pushed down on the car. It creaked, dropped another half inch. Clifton screamed again. I'll do it. I'll call him right now. They let him make the call, listened to him sob through an apology, then raised the car and left him crying in the oil stains. Gary Morris thought he was safe at Sullivan's bar, surrounded by friends, drinking and laughing, showing people the video of Tyler's beating like it was a highlight reel. He didn't notice the 2 men who entered at 2,300 hours. Didn't notice them taking positions by the exits. When he stumbled outside to smoke a cigarette, Matthew's entire team was waiting. They took him to an empty lot behind a bar. No one saw. No one heard. Gary was drunk enough that he didn't even realize what was happening until he was on his knees, surrounded. James Davenport stood in front of him. Gary Morris, youngest of the brothers. The follower. You broke Tyler McMillan's ribs because your brothers told you to. Gary slurred something incomprehensible. Here's what's going to happen, James continued. Your brothers have all received visits tonight. They've all been given the same message. Leave Tyler alone. Leave his family alone. Or face consequences. He paused. You're going to make sure they follow through. You're going to be our messenger. Understand? Gary nodded, then vomited. We're going to let you go. You're going to tell your brothers what happened tonight. And then all 6 of you are going to disappear from Tyler's life. Forever. James leaned close. Because if you don't, we'll come back. And next time, we won't be nice. Next time, there won't be warnings. Next time, we'll do what we're trained to do. They left Gary in the dirt, shaking and crying, his friends still inside the bar, none the wiser. While his team executed their operations, Matthew stood outside his own home, a house he'd bought with deployment bonuses, a place he'd barely lived in. Lights were on inside. Sylvia was home. He didn't knock. Used his key. Walked in like he still belonged there. Sylvia was in the living room, on her phone, scrolling through the comments on Tyler's beating video. She looked up, saw Matthew and smiled. Actually smiled. You're home early. I didn't expect you for another week. Matthew closed the door behind him. I saw the video. Oh, that. She shrugged. Tyler needed to learn respect. My brothers were just helping. They broke his jaw, his arm. For ribs. He'll heal. Boys need to be tough. She stood, crossed her arms. You've been gone for 17 years, Matthew. You don't get to come back and tell me how to raise our son. Your brothers nearly killed him. They disciplined him. There's a difference. Her voice rose. Tyler's been getting soft. Going to college, dating that Roberson girl, thinking he's better than us. Someone needed to put him in his place. Matthew felt something cold settle in his chest. You filmed it. I wanted proof. Wanted to show you what happens when you're not here to be a father. She stepped closer, jabbing a finger at his chest. This is your fault. You chose the Marines over your family. Don't come back now and play the hero. Tyler did nothing wrong. He disrespected Ramon, called him a thief in front of the whole family. Ramon is a thief. Sylvia slapped him. The sound echoed in the quiet house. Matthew didn't react, didn't move, just stared at her with eyes that had seen too much death to be impressed by her anger. You put your hands on me, she hissed. I'll call the cops. Tell them you assaulted me. Your career will be over. Go ahead. Matthew's voice was glacier cold. Call them. While you're at it, tell them why you filmed your son being beaten. Tell them why you posted it online. Tell them why every child protective service in the state is calling for your arrest. Sylvia's face went pale. What? The video went viral, Sylvia. Millions of views. The police have already opened an investigation. Child endangerment. Conspiracy to commit assault. You're going to prison. No, my family will. Your family can't help you. Not this time. Matthew pulled out his phone, showed her the news articles. Prosecutors demanding action. Child advocates calling for justice. Public outrage forcing the corrupt sheriff to actually do his job. Your brothers are finished, Matthew continued. By morning, they'll all have apologized, deleted the video, begged forgiveness. Because tonight, they learned what happens when you hurt a Marine's family. Sylvia's hand trembled. What did you do? I reminded them that actions have consequences. He pocketed his phone. I'm taking Tyler. You won't see him again. You won't contact him. You won't speak his name. If you do, I'll make sure every detail of what you did becomes public. Your neighbors, your friends, your family. Everyone will know what kind of mother you are. Tyler is my son. Tyler is my son. You lost the right to claim him when you filmed his beating and celebrated it. Matthew headed for the door. I'm filing for divorce. For custody. And I'm going to win. Because you handed me all the evidence I need. Matthew, wait. He stopped, looked back at her one last time. The woman he'd married 20 years ago was gone. If she'd ever really existed. Did you ever love him? He asked quietly. Did you ever love either of us? Sylvia's silence was answer enough. Matthew walked out, got in his rental car, drove away from the house, from his broken marriage, from the life he'd tried to build between deployments. His phone buzzed. A text from James. All targets contacted. Mission successful. 0 casualties. Another text, this one from Tyler. Ramon called. He apologized. Said they all would. What did you do? Matthew typed back. I reminded some people that respect is earned, not beaten into someone. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. I'm coming to get you. We're going home. Where's home? Matthew thought about that. He'd spent 20 years fighting overseas, protecting strangers, missing his son's childhood. That ended now. Wherever you are. That's home. 3 weeks later, Matthew sat in Joseph Minor's office, signing divorce papers. Sylvia had agreed to everything. Full custody to Matthew. No alimony. No visitation rights. Her lawyer, a nervous man who kept glancing at the door, pushed the papers across the desk like they might explode. She's not contesting anything? Minor asked, surprised. No, sir, the lawyer said quickly. Mrs. McMillan believes this is in everyone's best interest. What he didn't say was that Sylvia was terrified. The state police had arrested all 6 Morris brothers on assault charges. The public pressure was too great for even the corrupt sheriff to ignore. Ramon had already taken a plea deal, 5 years probation, anger management classes, restitution. The others would follow. And Sylvia herself was under investigation. Child endangerment charges were pending. Her lawyer had advised cooperation. Giving up custody was part of that cooperation. Matthew signed the papers without reading them. He didn't care about the house, the money, any of it. He just wanted his son safe. What about the criminal case against Mrs. McMillan? Minor asked. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. The prosecutor is offering a deal. 18 months probation. Community service. Mandatory counseling. If she accepts and stays out of trouble, no prison time. Matthew's jaw tightened. 18 months for filming her son's beating. For posting it online. For celebrating his torture. Minor saw his expression. It's a small town, Matthew. The Morris family still has influence. 18 months probation is more than most thought she'd get. It's not justice. No, but it's closure. Minor paused. And it keeps you out of the courtroom. Keeps you from having to testify. Lets you and Tyler move on with your lives. Matthew nodded slowly. The lawyer was right, even if it burned. Tyler didn't need to relive his trauma in a courtroom. Didn't need to see his mother defend what she'd done. He needed peace. Healing. Fine. She takes the deal. And we're done. The lawyer practically ran from the office. Minor poured 2 glasses of bourbon, handed one to Matthew. Your team did quite a job on the Morris brothers. I've been hearing stories. Dale's wife filed for permanent custody. Clifton lost his job. The garage owner saw the video and fired him. Ramon's car lot is being investigated for fraud. Danny and Leon are rumored to have left town entirely. Good. The sheriff's asking questions. Wants to know if there's a connection between 6 grown men suddenly developing consciences on the same night. Minor sipped his drink. I told the Marines stick together. Suggested that maybe the Morris brothers realized what happens when you mess with a Marine's family and decided discretion was the better part of valor. Matthew met his eyes. That's all speculation, of course. Of course. Minor smiled faintly. Tyler's doing better, by the way. His jaw's healing. The arm's coming along. He started talking to Becky about what happened. Michigan State? They're reconsidering. The public sympathy's been overwhelming. The school received thousands of emails, calls, tweets demanding they honor Tyler's scholarship. The coach called yesterday. Said if Tyler's still interested, the spot is his. Matthew felt something loosen in his chest. He say if he's interested? He wants to talk to you first. Wants to know if you'll be around. Minor's voice softened. The kid spent 17 years watching you leave. He needs to know you're staying. I am. Matthew had already submitted his retirement paperwork. 20 years was enough. He'd given the Marines 2 decades. Now he'd give Tyler the father he deserved. What will you do? For work. I've had offers. Security consulting. Private military contracting. He shrugged. I'll figure it out. Right now, I just want to be there for my son. Minor raised his glass. To second chances. To making things right. They drank in comfortable silence. Matthew found Tyler in Minor's backyard, sitting on a bench with Becky, his arm around her shoulders. The kid's jaw was still wired, but he was smiling at something she'd said. Laughing, even through the pain. When he saw Matthew, He straightened. Becky squeezed his hand and slipped inside, giving them privacy. Matthew sat beside his son. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Tyler pulled out his notepad. Mom took the plea deal? Yes. You're really done? With the Marines? Yes. Tyler wrote carefully, his hand shaking slightly. What about your team? Your brothers? They're back in Afghanistan. Mission continues for them. Matthew paused. But my mission is here now. With you. I don't want you to give up your career for me. I'm not giving it up. I'm finishing it. Matthew looked at his son, 17 years old, brutalized by his own family, still worried about everyone else. 20 years I've been fighting for strangers. I think it's time I fought for you. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. Michigan State wants me back. If I can play by next season. Can you? Doctors say maybe. If I work hard. If I stay focused. He hesitated. Will you come with me? To Michigan? Matthew felt his throat tighten. You want me there? I want my dad. I've always wanted my dad. Tyler's handwriting grew urgent. I know you had important work. I know people needed you. But I needed you too. And now you're here. Please don't leave again. Matthew pulled his son into a careful embrace, mindful of his injuries. I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me for the next 50 years, at least. Tyler laughed, a wet sound, and held on tight. They stayed like that until the sun set, father and son, making up for lost time. 6 months later, Matthew stood in the parking lot of Michigan State University, helping Tyler move into his dorm. The kid's jaw had healed perfectly, the doctors said. The arm was back to full strength. The ribs no longer bothered him except in cold weather. The scholarship had been reinstated. The coach had personally apologized, said Tyler had shown more character in his recovery than most athletes showed in their whole careers. The team had embraced him, made him one of their own. Tyler's story had gone from viral tragedy to inspirational comeback. But the kid himself didn't talk about it much. He just worked, trained, studied, lived. Becky Roberson was there too, attending Michigan State on an academic scholarship. She'd stuck by Tyler through everything. The surgeries, the therapy, the nightmares. The two of them were inseparable. Last box, Matthew said, carrying Tyler's football gear up to his room. Tyler grinned. Thanks, Dad. The words still hit Matthew square in the chest. Dad. 17 years he'd been called that, but only the last 6 months had he truly earned it. They set up the room. Posters on the walls, books on the shelves, football equipment in the corner. Tyler's roommate was a lineman from Texas named Marcus, a friendly kid who took one look at Matthew and immediately stood straighter. Sir. Pleasure to meet you, sir. At ease, Matthew said, amused. I'm retired. Force Recon, right? Tyler told me. Marcus shook his hand like he was meeting a celebrity. My uncle's Marines. Said Force Recon's the real deal. We did our job. Yeah, but... Marcus glanced at Tyler. Taking care of family? That's the job that matters most. Matthew nodded. The kid got it. Later, standing outside the dorm, Tyler gave him a long hug. You don't have to stay nearby. I know you probably want to. I got an apartment 10 minutes from campus, Matthew interrupted. Security consulting job at the university. Flexible hours. Good pay. I'll be around. Tyler's eyes widened. You're staying? Told you. 50 years minimum. Matthew smiled. Besides, someone's got to make sure you study and don't spend all your time with Becky. Tyler laughed. I study. Ask her. She helps me. Sure she does. Matthew ruffled his son's hair. Go. First practice is tomorrow. Get some sleep. Love you, Dad. Love you too, son. Matthew watched Tyler head inside. Watch him laugh with Marcus. Watched him pull out his phone and text Becky. Watched him live the life he deserved. Then he drove to his new apartment. A small place near campus. Nothing fancy, but it was his. A fresh start. His phone rang. James Davenport. Macmillan. How's civilian life treating you? Can't complain. Tyler settled in. I start work Monday. Good. Good. James paused. Listen, I'm calling because, well, the captain wanted you to know. Ramon Morris violated his probation. Got drunk, got in a fight. Judge revoked his deal. He's doing 3 years in state prison. Matthew absorbed that. And the others? Dale's wife got full custody. He's bankrupt from legal fees. Clifton's working at a gas station in Ohio. Danny and Leon are still gone. Rumor is they're in Florida, staying far away from Pennsylvania. Gary moved in with his mom, hasn't left the house in months. And Sylvia completed her probation, moved to Arizona with her mother. Change her name, trying to start over. James's voice hardened. She's been contacted by some true crime podcasts. Wants to tell her side of the story. Matthew's jaw tightened. Let her. Truth's already out there. Yeah, Tyler's story is the one people care about, not hers. James paused. You did good, brother. The kid's thriving. You're there for him. That's what matters. Thanks for everything. For coming with me. For having my back. Always. That's what brothers do. James chuckled. Besides, it felt good. Putting fear into men who prey on kids. Making them understand that actions have consequences. Think they learned their lesson? I think they learned that Tyler McMillan has a family who won't let him be hurt. I think they learned that some fights aren't worth picking. And I think they learned that Marines don't forget. James's voice softened. But mostly, I think they learned what real strength looks like. Not 6-on-1 beatings. Not posting videos. Real strength. The kind Tyler showed every day in his recovery. The kind you showed by choosing your son over your career. Matthew felt his eyes sting. I should have chosen him sooner. You're choosing him now. That's what counts. James paused. Take care of yourself, McMillan. And take care of that kid. He's got a bright future ahead. Will do. Semper Fi, brother. Semper Fi. The call ended. Matthew stood on his apartment balcony, looking out over the Michigan State campus. Lights twinkled in dorm windows. Students laughed on sidewalks. Life continuing, normal and beautiful and safe. Tyler was out there somewhere, starting his new life. Free from the violence that had nearly destroyed him. Free from the family that had betrayed him. And Matthew was here. Not in Afghanistan. Not in some war zone halfway across the world. Here, where he should have been all along. He thought about Sylvia, about her brothers, about the justice system that had given them all slaps on the wrist. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't everything they deserved. But Tyler was safe. Tyler was thriving. Tyler had his father. And in the end, that was the only justice that mattered. Matthew pulled out his phone, sent Tyler a text. Proud of you, son. The response came immediately. Couldn't have done it without you, Dad. Matthew smiled, pocketed his phone, and went inside. He had a life to live, a son to support, a future to build. And this time, he wasn't going to miss a single moment.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.